Chapter 81. After the First World War, the god of war became autistic. You are listening at novelfull.audio. So strong, looking at the blade light that was tearing the sky and earth like a waterfall, Li Qingfeng was also shocked. Ha ha ha, let's fight. Immediately, he laughed heroically. The fighting spirit was rising, and the body of the god of war released a powerful momentum, and shouted, Starfall. He held the heaven-shaking spear in his hand and struck it downward. Under the spear, a dazzling starlight suddenly rose up, as if a star fell, shaking and killing the soul puppet. Boom boom boom. In midair, the blade light and the spear light collided with each other, and there was a thunderous explosion in the sky, and strong light shone. Everywhere, in the imperial city, the densely packed people were blinded by the strong light. Step. After a knife was swung, the soul puppet soared into the sky. The speed was surprisingly fast. In the blink of an eye, it flew to a higher altitude than Li Qingfeng. With the soul flame curling on the armor, he waved his arm again. The soul puppet, which had no thoughts, shouted instinctively when it attacked. One knife, cut the sea of stars. Bang. The second knife was even more violent. From top to bottom, it slashed towards Li Qingfeng. The knife power destroyed the world, and the killing intent poured down like a raging waterfall. Li Qingfeng's cold eyes shone. With an arrogant attitude, he raised his arm to the sky and fired a shot. Starburst. The sharp killing light shot out from the gun, as if a star exploded. Boom boom boom. As the two forces collided, there were dense explosions in the sky again. Step. How could Li Qingfeng let the enemy stand above him? His body shook, and he instantly rose thousands of meters. Looking for death. In the roar of gods and demons, the soul puppet, who had no sense of pain, no fear, no timidity, only a heart of killing, and only infinite fighting spirit, swung a knife across the sky. One knife, cut the sky. The knife light cut across the sky and the earth. Li Qingfeng showed no sign of weakness and fired another shot. Do you see clearly? This is the thunder that penetrates the chaotic world. The gun shot out like a dragon, and it kept blasting away. Boom. Amid the loud noise, the world was in turmoil. Under the impact of the terrifying force wave, the soul puppet and Li Qingfeng were both shocked and flew back thousands of feet away. After 3 moves, Li Qingfeng was shocked. Is this thing so powerful, that if the sword demon was not dead, he was confident that he could kill it in 3 moves? But now that he was made into a soul puppet by Li Congxin, he was actually on par with him in 3 moves. Even, the more he fought, the braver he became. One knife, cut off the sky. While he was thinking, the soul puppet jumped across space, spanning more than 10,000 meters, and slashed at him with a knife. The 10,000-meter sword light that seemed to be able to split the world in 2 made Li Qingfeng feel a chill in his heart. He dared not be careless anymore, and he focused all his attention and fought hard. For a while, the sky was as loud as thunder. Strong light bursts continuously. In a blink of an eye, hundreds of rounds have already passed. While Li Qingfeng was fighting, he was sweating in his heart. It was really embarrassing. Just now, he said he wanted to fight 8 people. Watching others fight, it was interesting at first, but after a long time, I didn't have much interest. The lazy Li Congxin began to yawn, and then he turned into a zombie face, standing there, and entered a state of dementia, because this is just a clone of Li Congxin. Once the main body is not controlled by the mind, the clone will no longer have any expression. On Iran Peak, he was lying on a bamboo chair, breathing evenly and long, and he actually fell asleep. After a short rest, Li Congxin woke up and took back the control of the clone, asked, How long have you been fighting? Li Tianqing and Mo Xiangran, who were watching intently, instinctively answered, It's been almost half an hour. Suddenly, his expression was stunned again. That's not right. How long have you been fighting? Don't you know it yourself? At this time, above the palace, Li Qingfeng and the soul puppet were still fighting fiercely. The two had fought for thousands of rounds. The fight was so intense that the sky was dark. The real battle was about to last for 10,000 moves. Now, Li Congxin had basically come to a conclusion. As expected of a quasi-emperor soul puppet made by the god-level puppet refining technique, this soul puppet was an immortal spirit. If you want to kill him, you must break his armor and then break his soul, because his armor was forged by the emperor himself. and the soul puppet's combat power was much stronger than himself, so to break his armor and then break his soul, at least only the emperor could do it. The quasi-emperor realm, no matter how extreme it was, could not suppress him, therefore, Li Qingfeng could not defeat him. If he continued to fight, he was afraid that his second uncle would be in trouble. When Li Qingfeng and the soul puppet were fighting again, Li Congxin controlled his mind and said, "Retract 30% of your strength." Boom. After retracting 30% of its strength, the soul puppet's 70% strength could not withstand Li Qingfeng's strength, and was thrown down from the sky by his shot, and fell heavily to the ground. Bang! It fell with a loud bang, but it was not damaged at all. Under Li Congxin's divine consciousness, the soul puppet retreated to the 8 soul puppets standing in a row. "Second uncle is strong, my soul puppet lost." Li Congxin laughed without caring about winning or losing. Bang! Li Qingfeng also fell back to the ground, crushing a large piece of bluestone. The heroic spirit just now was gone. He just waved his hand. "Hey, no more." How could a person with such rich combat experience as him not judge whether the opponent had retracted his strength? He knew that Li Congxin deliberately let him go in order to save his face. He said unhappily, "I'm in a bad mood, I'm going to drink." After that, he carried the heaven-shaking spear and walked away in a somewhat dejected manner. Under the setting sun, after this battle, Li Qingfeng's majestic body of the god of war seemed no longer tall and straight, no longer shining, but with a bit of desolation and loneliness. Li Congxin was promoted to the great emperor, and of course he was very happy. The kid who used to sit on his lap every day under the starry sky and pester him to tell stories was now stronger than him, and he was only relieved and happy in his heart. But Li Congxin made a soul puppet with a few tricks, and he, a great god of war, couldn't beat it. This really hurt his self-esteem. After all, he was also a very proud person. When he thought that he couldn't beat it, he would never beat it, and Li Qingfeng felt even more depressed. The great emperor, only one in a world in 1,000,000 years, and the quota of this 1,000,000 years was occupied by Li Tian. He knew that he was not an abnormal existence like Li Congxin who could break the rules of heaven, so his cultivation limit was the peak of the quasi-emperor. In order to become stronger, he could only constantly hone his fighting spirit, but no matter how he honed, he could only be invincible in the same realm, because, after all, he is not the emperor. If he cannot cross that gap, he can never become the strongest, and cannot be truly invincible. This battle is the most realistic proof. "Brother, look at you, you made second uncle sad." Looking at Li Qingfeng's back, Li Tianqing said coquettishly, and gently pinched Li Congxin's arm. "Didn't the god of war just win?" Mo Xiangran was still a little confused, because he didn't see that Li Congxin was letting him win. "Well, yes, even if my 8 soul puppets come together, they can't beat him. I'm sure." Li Congxin nodded in confirmation. Immediately, he shouted, "Hey, second uncle, can you not leave?" Li Qingfeng turned around, forced to smile, pretending to be joking. "Stinky boy, if you don't leave, will you support me?" Li Congxin smiled brightly. "Okay, I'll support you." Li Qingfeng was relieved, and his eyes were a little wet. He spat again. "Fool, you should take care of yourself first." "I'm leaving, I'm going to drink." Turning back, he waved his hand back and continued to walk away. Li Congxin chased him a few steps. "No more joking, second uncle, wait a minute. There must be a response when there is a call." Li Qingfeng turned back and scolded with a smile, "Stinky boy, are you laughing at me? Take this to go with the wine." Li Congxin waved his hand, and a big colored egg containing the cultivation of 2 ancient quasi-emperors flew towards Li Qingfeng. "It's so big, how much wine do I have to drink?" Looking at the flying egg, Li Qingfeng said in surprise. When he took the big egg, his expression suddenly lifted again. "Ha ha ha. Nephew, are you really raising me?" For a moment, he became full of passion again, like crazy, dancing with joy and running towards the distance. "I'll come again in 3 days, next time, I'll beat 8. Okay. Li Congxin said with a smile. Soon, the 3rd emperor of his Li family will be born. This sudden change made Li Tianqin look surprised. "Why is my second uncle so happy all of a sudden?" War god Li Qingfeng jumped like a child, and this was the first time she had seen it since she was a child. Li Congxin said, because he heard that I raised him, he was moved. Li Tianqing's pair of autumn eyes suddenly looked at him with a smile. Smelly brother, will you raise me? Raise, raise, raise. Li Congxin nodded. Mo Xiangran on the side laughed, and she was envious of this sweet sister-brother relationship. Similarly, only she knew what the egg represented. It represents a strong man at the peak of the quasi-emperor realm, who can immediately step into the great emperor realm. Mo Xiangran was also surprised. The teacher actually had more than one such cultivation Easter egg. Good eggs come in pairs, but he could only have 2 at most. After all, if this kind of heaven-defying thing appeared for the 3rd time, it would be incredible. Ding. You gave Li Qingfeng a dragon and phoenix egg, triggering a 100-fold rebate, and get 100 dragon and phoenix eggs. Listening to the system prompt, Li Congxin was calm. Not long after Li Qingfeng left, a sharp eunuch voice sounded. Your Majesty, your chariot for this trip to the outer domain has been prepared. Boom! With that voice, a crystal carriage pulled by 8 snow-white spirit horses with wings flew out of a palace in the imperial palace. When it landed in front of Li Tianqing, the 8 flying horses, which were as white as snow, raised their unruly front hooves at the same time, spread their gorgeous wings, and were handsome and gorgeous. The crystal car landed on the ground steadily, dazzling and gorgeous. What a cool chariot! Li Congxin couldn't help but praise. My sister is really impressive. Ding! You are in the infinite lottery. Congratulations, you won a Emperor's Mountain and River Chariot in the lottery. Chapter 82 Emperor Tianqing. You are listening at novelfull.audio. System, you are really strong and never give up. You want to roll up everything you see. A chariot can make you dissatisfied. What can Li Congxin do in the face of the system's dissatisfaction? He can only express his conviction. Brother, you have finally left the Taiqian Holy Land. This time I must take you for a good stroll, travel the interstellar, and see the world. You are the Supreme Emperor, and you have to broaden your horizons. Come on, go to Piaomiao Island with me to participate in an alchemy event. Li Tianqing, who had been holding his arm, pulled him towards the Pegasus crystal carriage. Li Congxin laughed in his heart, leaving a fart. The goddess Chu Fij rubbed his shoulders, the spirit girl Isusu pinched his feet, and he was still lying on Iran Peak. The one who was wandering outside was just an avatar controlled by his mind. Piaomiao Island? Asked. Where is that in Tianqing continent? Li Tianqing said. I've already said that we're traveling in the interstellar space, so it's naturally not a place in Tianqing continent. There are 10 large worlds in this sea of stars where practitioners live, also referred to as the outer domain, namely, Tianqing continent, Congxin continent, Invincible continent, Danyang continent, Eternal continent, 10,000 beasts continent, Xingyao continent, Cambrian continent, Liang continent, and Tianyu continent, but Piaomiao Island is not one of the 10 major worlds. It is a mysterious floating island floating in the vast starry sky, with no fixed residence and no fixed whereabouts. It may appear anywhere in the 10 major worlds. Every time Piaomiao Island appears, it will open a grand alchemy event to the outside world, producing many precious and rare elixirs, attracting practitioners from the 10 major worlds to rush to buy them. Let's take my car. Li Congxin snapped his fingers. Boom! The heaven and earth shook, and the imperial power rushed in all directions. The emperor's chariot appeared in the square of the palace. Is this a car? Li Tianqing exclaimed. This is a moving palace. The great emperor's mountain and river carriage is an extremely domineering sedan chair, shaped like a majestic octagonal pavilion, with magnificent mountain and river patterns engraved on the pavilion and sedan chair, shining with golden Taoist brilliance. The ancient black sails with unicorn patterns are curtains, covering the huge imperial sedan chair. The great emperor's sedan chair releases a vast imperial power that can crush thousands of troops. Let's go. Li Congxin took Li Tianqing's arm, and turned back to say hello to Mo Xiangran. In the imperial sedan chair, it was even more spectacular, with mountains and rivers, rolling spiritual mist, and a 5-clawed golden dragon coiled between the mountains and rivers, with an extremely majestic momentum. the three entered the great emperor's mountain and river carriage and sat around the magnificent mountains and rivers. Mo Xiangran worriedly said, "Teacher, how heavy is this mountain and river chariot? I'm afraid it's not something that ordinary cultivators can lift." "It weighs 170 million jin." Li Congxin was leisurely. "Look, my 8 soul puppets can be used. These soul puppets were originally intended to be used as death squads for my father to fight, but they have not been sent to the battlefield yet, so fortunately they will be my sedan bearers first." Boom. As Li Congxin's mind moved, 8 soul puppets with soul flames lifted the great emperor's mountain and river chariot, stepped into the air, and strode towards the starry sky. They never dreamed that the dignified quasi-emperor would eventually become Li Congxin's sedan bearer after his death. It really fulfilled their own oath, to be like cows and horses, to be slaves and servants. In the emperor's chariot, from the corner of the swaying curtain, Li Congxin looked at the vast starry sky outside with a dull face, which was so gorgeous and dreamy. He seemed to be fascinated. At this time, Mo Xiangran had the opportunity to mention to Li Tianqing that she wanted to become Li Congxin's apprentice. "Haven't you sent me a spiritual message about this before?" Li Tianqing agreed. Of course, she didn't expect that her brother not only had a strong cultivation, but also had extraordinary literary talent. Even Mo Xiangran, who was outstanding in talent, was willing to be convinced after just one meeting. She blinked at Li Congxin. "Brother, you are about to turn 18 years old. It's time to consider the issue of continuing the family line for my family. Xiangran is actually very good. A talented woman like Mo Xiangran is pure and unworldly, with a temperament like orchid, and her manners are dignified and elegant, generous and decent. It can be said that she is suitable for the hall and the bed. If she wants to recruit a son-in-law, it is estimated that the queue can be 3,000 miles away, so Li Tianqing is quite satisfied." Mo Xiangran blushed, pinched the corner of her clothes and whispered shyly, "Your Majesty, my teacher and I are just a pure teacher-student relationship." Li Tianqing said domineeringly, "As long as there is no blood relationship, there is no pure relationship between men and women." He added, "Unless there is a problem with sexual orientation." Mo Xiangran. It must be said that Li Tianqing completely inherited Li Tianba's style in many places. Her cheeks became redder, and she secretly glanced at Li Congxin. Li Congxin was really in a daze, as if he didn't hear it, because his main body on Iran Peak was now crying and opening its mouth. Chu Fij was feeding it spoonful by spoonful, enjoying the food newly developed by Ren Huchong. There was no time to care about the clone. Mo Xiangran couldn't help but feel relieved, and at the same time, there was a little disappointment. After a while, Li Congxin seemed to come back to his senses, looking around and said, "What did you two just say?" Li Tianqing glared. She said angrily, "You stinky brother, we are all just staring blankly at you." She just thought that Li Congxin had no sexual interest in Mo Xiangran. Thinking about it, it was true. Her brother was too outstanding. It seemed that no woman could be compared to him. Oh, headache. Since that was the case, she would not go against Li Congxin's wishes, so he changed the subject. "Brother, you are now an emperor. Every emperor has his own imperial title. For example, my father's nickname is Ji Ba, which means he is extremely domineering and extremely domineering." I couldn't help but smile. "You probably won't like it too much if I call you Xiao Heba." Li Congxin's mouth twitched. "Why do I feel like I'm being scolded?" Mo Xiangran suggested, "Teacher, our world is called Tianqing continent. What do you think of calling it Emperor Tianqing? It is the future and hope of the entire continent. It holds the sky with one hand and looks down on enemies from all directions." "Okay." Li Congxin was very casual. "As long as you don't call me Xia Jiba, everything else is fine." "Good." Li Tianqing's expression perked up, his tones suddenly became sharper. "When I go back, I will tell the world that my brother is Emperor Tianqing." Next, several people continued to chat. "Why?" Suddenly, Li Tianqing sighed softly again. It turned out that in addition to participating in the Alchemy festival, she had another important thing to do when she went to Piamiao Island this time. It is the exchange of alchemy that Tianqing continent and Danyang continent have agreed to do every once in a while. The so-called communication is actually a competition. the two continents have been comparing and competing for many years in terms of Dan Dao, and Tianqing continent has always been slightly inferior. In the last competition, Wu Kaishan, the #1 alchemy expert in Tianqing continent, who was also Li Congxin's master, finally lost to the Danyang continent's #1 alchemy expert, the Danyang Emperor. The great Emperor Danyang achieved enlightenment through the way of alchemy and was promoted to the great emperor. His attainments in the way of alchemy were really too powerful. Really invincible. Li Tianqin thought that this time, Wu Kaishan might not be able to win. If you lose, you will be humiliated in the end, but you still have to fight, because if you don't fight, losing without fighting will be even more humiliating. No wonder Master was so eager to break the rules and enter the realm of the great emperor that he exploded the furnace and killed 7,000 of his disciples. It turned out to be the pressure from Emperor Danyang. Li Congxin asked, but right now, aren't Master and Dad fighting against the invincible continent? This competition is extremely important to him. It is related to his honor. Senior Wu will take time to go to Piaomiao Island to meet us. Oh. Li Congxin responded, at this time, in the vast universe, a luxurious imperial chariot pulled by 8 huge beasts was running through the void. Those 8 beasts, which were larger than ancient elephants, were radiating golden light and burning with blazing golden flames. They were so majestic, Jin Yen Holy Lion, a holy level monster. Roar. Roar. Running through the void, the roars of the lions resounded throughout the world. There were also 3 people sitting in the imperial chariot, a man with divine eyes, a long beard fluttering on his chest, full of fairy spirit, exuding powerful imperial power, a young man with a face like a crown jewel, and a charming young lady with bright eyes and white teeth. This person is none other than Li Congxin's master Wu Kaishan's old rival on the alchemy path, Emperor Danyang, and the man and woman beside him are his children, the emperor's son, Lin Jiping, the emperor's daughter, Lin Lingling. The father and son were talking and laughing happily in the imperial carriage. Father, in this competition with Wu Kaishan, the alchemy master from Tianqing continent, you must have crushed him again, right? Little sister, do you still need to ask? As long as Wu Kaishan cannot attain the Tao of the great emperor and reach the realm of alchemy, he will always be pinned down by his father and it will be impossible for him to stand up. Don't talk nonsense before the outcome is determined. Emperor Danyang had a long smile on his face, but in fact, he did think so in his heart. Suddenly, his eyes froze. Get away! A sudden shout, containing powerful imperial power, moved forward in awe. They were both going to Piaomiao Island. Li Congxin's Emperor Shanhe chariot and Emperor Danyang's Lion Emperor's chariot, one came from the south and the other came from the north. They just happened to meet in the universe, and it comes from the diameter hedging. This is not a road, but an endless sky. Flying in the boundless sky, the chance of crashing into a car is simply smaller than pulling out a 1,000-year-old chicken from a brothel, but it's such a coincidence. How can the great Emperor Danyang give way to others? Boom! His shouts came like a mountain torrent, constantly smashing into the void and breaking apart the laws. If we don't give way, everything in the world will fall apart under the overwhelming power of the emperor. Opposite, Li Congxin in the imperial chariot waved his sleeve. Boom! With one sleeve of power, he forcibly swayed away the vast imperial power that was coming in anger. Unreasonable. He raised his eyebrows. Since the other party initiated the provocation first, Li Congxin would definitely not be outdone and directly ordered, bump into him. Chapter 83, Opening the Universal Infinite Money Tree. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Boom! At the command, the 8 soul puppets carried the great emperor's mountain and river carriage and charged forward fearlessly. Emperor Danyang was also shocked that the person in the opposite sedan could shake off his imperial power. At the moment, it was like 2 racing cars colliding at high speed. He could only make up his mind. Roar. With angry roars, the 8 golden flame holy lions instantly burst into golden flames hundreds of feet high, as if they had directly ignited the starry sky. Roar. With ferocious eyes, they rushed forward regardless of everything. Boom! Under the collision, the soul puppets carrying the great emperor's mountain and river carriage released powerful attacks at the same time, and the 8 golden flame holy lions were like exploding flowers, flying all over the sky. the opponent never expected that this emperor's chariot had such a strong attack power. Boom! At the same time, the luxurious emperor's chariot behind the golden flame holy lions was smashed to pieces on the spot, doors and windows flew everywhere. You bastard! You're driving recklessly, do you want your loved ones to cry? Humph! 8 soul puppets carried the great emperor's mountain and river chariot, cursing and swearing, extremely ostentatious, wanton, and swaggering into the void. They had no thoughts, and the sounds in their mouths were completely controlled by Li Congxin's thoughts. Damn it! Fuck! Oh! At this moment, Emperor Danyang, Lin Jiping, and Lin Lingling all flew out of the exploding emperor's chariot in exclamation. At the same time, they were furious in their hearts, who was rushing recklessly. So arrogant! While the three of them were floating in the void, they all looked at the great emperor's mountain and river chariot together. When the great emperor's mountain and river chariot flew past them, along with the ancient imperial curtain that swung, between the vast universe, under the gorgeous starry sky, in the colorful streamer, in this particular situation, they saw a series of stunning faces that made them unforgettable in their lives, because the three of them were scattered in the explosion. They saw different directions under the imperial curtain that looked like an octagonal pavilion. The Danyang emperor saw a cold and beautiful empress, the emperor's son Lin Jiping saw a pure and elegant girl, the emperor's daughter Lin Lingling saw a handsome and elegant boy. At this time, the Danyang emperor said with certainty, this girl is the future empress of this emperor. Lin Jiping's eyes also lit up, this emperor's son, I must take this girl as my imperial concubine. I guess only such a young man can be worthy of this emperor's daughter. Lin Lingling stood in the void and murmured in a low voice. Soon after, in the colorful clouds, a huge floating island suspended under the magnificent starry sky appeared in front of Li Congxin's eyes. The Piaomiao Island was crowded with people at this time, and it turned out to be a prosperous and bustling city. We're here. Li Tianqing's expression was lifted. 8 soul puppets carried the great emperor's mountain and river carriage, crossed the Tianhe River, and flew towards Piaomiao Island. Boom! The majestic mountain and river carriage landed steadily on the square leading to Piaomiao Island. Boom! Under the impact of the released imperial power, the cultivators from various worlds in the square were forced to retreat one after another. What a domineering chariot! Look, the ones carrying the sedan are 8 soul puppets. Hiss, they are still quasi-emperor level soul puppets. Quasi-emperor level soul puppets can suppress any quasi-emperor existence. Only the great emperor can kill them personally. Here comes a big shot. In this chariot, there must be a great emperor from a big world, or a supreme and noble person like the emperor's son or daughter. The cultivators from various worlds talked about it. Looking up, under everyone's attention, Li Congxin first poked his head out of the chariot, then gentlemanly lifted the imperial curtain, and walked out with Li Tianqing and Mo Xiangran. Bang! A quasi-emperor soul puppet immediately bowed and knelt in front of the chariot, acting as a stepping stone. Stepping on the soul puppet armor, the three landed on the square. Immediately, Li Congxin lightly snapped his fingers and first stored the great emperor mountain and river chariot and the 8 soul puppets in the system warehouse. Looking at the three people, someone exclaimed, which world are they from? These people can only be described in 2 words, beautiful. The temperament of the young masters and young ladies of the real rich families is different. There must be an emperor's son or daughter among them. In the square, there was already a middle-aged man with a big belly and a merchant look who seemed to have been waiting here for a long time. Seeing several people coming, he hurriedly stepped forward and bowed with his fists. I am here to see the emperor's daughter. Wow! There were many exclamations around, and there was indeed an emperor's daughter. Obviously, the middle-aged man only knew Li Tianqing, not Li Congxin. In the big world, the subordinates called Li Congxin and his brother the Holy Son, the young master, the queen, and your majesty. But outside this world, in the more vast foreign lands, they were collectively called the emperor's daughter and the emperor's son. Because the identity of the son of the great emperor is more prominent, more noble, and more deterrent. At this time, Li Congxin did not release the aura of the great emperor, and no one could have imagined that this handsome boy who was just 17 years old would be a great emperor who could cross a great world for 1,000,000 years. I am Shen Wansan, a helmsman in the 2nd Mrs. World Business Alliance. First introducing himself, and then getting straight to the point, Shen Wansan held up a storage ring set with a huge diamond and presented it to Li Tianqing. Miss, this is what the second lady has prepared for you for this alchemy event. Spiritual stone. Why should a storage ring be set with a priceless large diamond? Because this is Li Yusin's style. Whatever she does, she pays attention to appearance and style, it's how. Li Tianqing took the storage ring without politeness. Ahem. Shen Wansan coughed and smiled, as if he was a little embarrassed, but he still followed the master's instructions and said, the second lady has given instructions. If we see any miraculous elixir that is useful to the emperor during the alchemy festival. After saying that, he waved his sleeves and said, buy them all. The gesture was extremely bold. Don't worry about not having enough spiritual stones, and don't be reluctant to part with the flowers. In short, the emperor's son is the most important thing, more important than anything else. Li Tianqing said, I know. The younger one will retreat first. Shen Wansan bowed and clasped his fists, and said before leaving, the small room has been reserved for the eldest lady. The Phoenix Tower is the number one in the sky. As Shen Wansan who sent the money left, Li Tianqing pursed his lips and smiled, and glared at Li Congxin resentfully, where is this for me? It's obviously for you. Humph, take it. Pretending to be angry, he threw the storage ring to Li Congxin. Is the eldest sister jealous of the second sister? Li Congxin smiled in her heart, she was so lucky to have two sisters like her. I go, after taking a look at the spirit stone in the storage ring, I was really shocked, the best spiritual stone, 10 billion. Although Li Congxin was not short of money, he still asked in shock, is the second sister crazy, that this situation is like going to a shopping mall? Just when you reach the entrance of the shopping mall, someone gives you money to buy as much as you want. She's always been crazy about you. Li Tianqing said angrily, she still doesn't know that you are the emperor now. She only thinks that you are still a piece of cake like before. So as long as it can make you stronger, even a little bit, let alone 10 billion, 100 billion to 1 trillion, I believe she is willing to smash it. But there's nothing that expensive. Mo Xiangran on the side was so frightened that he stuck out his tongue. I'm so happy, Li Congxin could only sigh again, ding. The unlimited lottery is open, congratulations, you won 10 billion of the best spiritual stones in the lottery. Congratulations, you won 10 billion of the best spiritual stones in the lottery. Congratulations, you won 10 billion of the best spiritual stones in the lottery. Just know, Li Congxin's face was calm and he didn't care at all, ding. The system is being upgraded, the upgrade failed, the upgrade failed, the system was upgraded for the third time, and the upgrade was successful. What? The happy expression on Li Congxin's face finally faded away and turned into a sweaty one, endless. System, you have given me 30 billion in retaliation, and you are still not satisfied, why do you need to upgrade? Ding. Reminder, you have activated the miracle, universal unlimited money tree. Buzz. No explanation, no answer, the system kept operating, and then directly pulled his consciousness into a magical space created by the system. Chapter 84 The Emperor's Son is also a king. You are listening at novelfull.audio. After Long Qi and Guangsha, Li Congxin stood in the third miracle created by the system. There are green grass on the ground, white clouds floating in the sky, and in the vast sky and earth, there is nothing else but a tree. Giant trees. A strange tree so big that it can cover the sky and the earth, the tree is as golden as cast gold. Is this crazy? System, did my second sister recruit you or provoke you? Do you want to target her like this? Li Congxin stood under the tree that covered the sky like a big umbrella. When he looked up, he was extremely shocked. The trees were sparkling and sparkling, as if they were filled with stars, all filled with top-quality spiritual stones. How many there are specifically is impossible to count. Ding, please listen to the prompt. Universal unlimited money tree, unlimited, means that the tree can be shaken infinitely. There is no need to worry about the quantity and time. The money on the tree will grow infinitely in an instant and will never dry up. Universal means that this tree can automatically transform with changes in the big world. For example, the trees growing on it are all top-grade spiritual stones. But if the host goes to a higher-level world of immortals and gods, then the top-grade spiritual stones on the tree all spiritual stones will automatically turn into top-quality fairy stones. Suppose that the host returns to the mortal world before you travel through time, and all the money trees are covered with $100 bills. This setting is good. Li Congxin, who had lived in poverty all his life, couldn't help but feel satisfied when he heard the words $100 bills. It is simply full of idealism and can be said to be flawless. With this money tree, no matter where you are in this life, you will not worry about lack of money to spend. So thick. So big. How do you tell me to shake it? Looking at the money tree with a trunk as big as several football fields, Li Congxin sweated again. He couldn't even lift it with his hands, so he tried to kick the money tree. Boom. There was a roar. The tree body shook, like stars falling from the sky, and countless top-quality spiritual stones fell from the tree. After falling to the ground, they all disappeared. He didn't have to pick it up himself, it was collected directly by the system. Tip, you get 9.7 billion top-quality spiritual stones. Just one kick is close to 10 billion. Li Congxin himself felt abnormal. You should know that for an ordinary cultivator with no background, he might not be able to earn a top-quality spiritual stone in his lifetime. Boom. He tried to increase his strength and kicked the tree again. There was a roar. Tip, you get 13.6 billion top-quality spiritual stones. Bang bang bang. With one kick, money was flying all over the sky. This feeling was so good that even if Li Congxin just wanted to lie down and die, he couldn't help but kick it a few times with interest. There was an uproar. There was a ruckus. You can't spend it all, you can't spend it all. I can't spend it all in a lifetime. With such confidence, he must sweep the entire crowd in this alchemy event. His thoughts returned to the original world. At this time, Li Congxin and his party had entered the interior of Piamiao Island and arrived outside a restaurant that looked particularly high-end, Phoenix Tower. Going to check the money tree in the system. Miracle is the spiritual consciousness of his main body on Iran Peak. In the process, his clone did not stop running. The alchemy festival won't start until tomorrow. Let's go stay first and wait for Senior Wu to come to meet us. The competition between Senior Wu and Emperor Danyang is scheduled to take place in 3 days. Brother, tomorrow, we will sweep the entire field. If 10 billion is not enough, I will ask your second sister to give you the money. On the street where people were coming and going, Li Tianqing held Li Congxin's hand intimately, whispering coquettishly to his ear and hair, and outsiders just thought the two were a couple. The talented girl Mo Xiangran on the side turned into a light bulb. At this time, inside the Phoenix Tower. I want room number 1 in Tianzi. A young man wearing a unicorn robe, sword-shaped eyebrows, cold eyes, and full of arrogance shouted loudly after entering the building. The two old men behind him were both unabashedly releasing their powerful imperial power. The other guests in the building all looked shocked. I'm afraid this is an emperor's son. Tianzi room number 1 in Phoenix Tower only accepts emperor-level VIPs. The host, Zhu Yanqing, walked towards me and said with a humble smile, sorry, someone has already reserved room Tianzi number 1. Would you like to choose another room? I only live in Tianzi number 1. The man looked arrogant and raised his eyebrows. Do you know who I am? Zhu Yanqing smiled and said, as a businessman, I have some sharp eyesight. The guest officer is the emperor's son of the invincible continent, the king. The two people behind the emperor are both quasi-emperors of the invincible continent. Wow! Hearing this, there was an uproar in the building. The son of the undefeated emperor. He is indeed an emperor's son, king. Such a domineering name makes you feel extraordinary when you hear it. As expected of being from the powerful undefeated continent, and worthy of being the son of the undefeated emperor, the king of kings. Hee. The king is also born with an arrogant attitude. Since you know the identity of the emperor's son, shouldn't this emperor's son live in this number 1? However, Zhu Yanqing still smiled kindly. Someone has already booked room number 1 in Tianzi. Emperor, I'm really sorry. You. The king also frowned, so ignorant of flexibility. How did this person manage to be in business until now? He couldn't help but feel a little unhappy, and waved his sleeves. How many spiritual stones do you want? I will pay 10 times the price. The world of cultivation, where competition is more intense and cruel, is more concerned with status, position, and appearance than the mortal world. He is the son of an emperor in a big world, and his status is supreme and noble. Of course, he has to pay attention to appearance, he cannot be inferior to others, and he must live in the highest standard room. Zhu Lianqing smiled and said, sorry. What? Not enough. The king also said loudly, this emperor's son offers 100 times the price. Okay. Zhu Lianqing smiled and said, sorry. The king was also angry, he sneered, and his tone began to be full of provocation and sarcasm. Then this emperor's son offers 10,000 times the price. Okay. The son of the world has plenty of money. He didn't believe that a businessman couldn't be defeated with money. Unexpectedly, Zhu Lianqing was not only unmoved, but also his enthusiasm was withdrawn. His expression suddenly turned cold. Please get out. The get out man deliberately emphasized the tone. What? The king was also shocked, his eyes widened in disbelief. As soon as these words came out, the Phoenix building was suddenly silent, and all the guests were shocked. This boss is really stubborn and really stubborn. He dared to offend the son of a big world. Don't you want to do business anymore? Don't you want your life anymore? Could it be that this Phoenix building has a more powerful background and backstage? At the same time, they couldn't help but become curious. Who is the person who booked the Emperor's building number 1? I think your business has come to an end. The king's face also became extremely cold. He is a son of an emperor, and he can't live in a room with a price 10,000 times higher than the price, and he was expelled without any face. Where is his face? Please be patient, my son. Piao Island has its rules. If anyone fights on the island, no matter who it is, they will be disqualified from participating in the auction and shopping at the Dan Dao festival. We have specially prepared a large amount of money. This time we come for those rare elixirs. As for this matter, we can wait until the Dan Dao festival is over before settling the accounts. The 2 accompanying old men whispered to him behind him. The king, who was about to get angry, clenched his fists. Let you live another day. Humph. In the end, he could only wave his sleeves angrily and prepare to leave the Phoenix Tower. Just as he turned around, Li Congxin and his party entered the Phoenix Tower. Zhu Lianqing was immediately happy. The eldest lady is here. As if nothing had happened just now, he quickly stepped forward to greet her. I am the owner of the Phoenix Tower, and also the subordinate of the second lady. I am here to meet the eldest lady. Come on, please move into the Emperor's number 1 building. As soon as these words came out, everyone in the Phoenix Tower looked at Li Congxin and his party. It turned out that these people were the ones who reserved the number 1 building. It seems that their status must be no less than that of the Prince of the Invincible Continent. He. Seeing Li Tianqin intimately holding a handsome boy, Zhu Lianqing smiled in his heart. He didn't expect that the queen's daughter liked this kind of white, tender and fresh, but he didn't dare to say it, and hurriedly bowed to Li Congxin and said, young brother-in-law, please. Li Tianqin's jade face flushed, her beautiful eyes glared, and she couldn't help but chuckled. What young brother-in-law, this is your young master. Ah. Zhu Lianqing was shocked. He only heard the name of the young master, but never saw the young master. The frail young master who never left the Taiqian Holy Land actually went out so far this time and ran to Piao Island to play. Bang! Without hesitation, he slapped himself hard, and quickly changed his words and said respectfully, so I am the son of the Emperor of Tianqing continent. Please come and invite me. Is this shop also opened by my second sister? Li Congxin looked amused. The second sister's business has even reached outer space. Yes. Zhu Lianqing smiled and said, there are several shops and places of the second lady on this Piao Island, as well as a bank. If the emperor's son does not have enough money, just go and get it. Well, okay. Li Congxin smiled and nodded, listening to the conversation behind him. The king who was about to leave also stopped suddenly. looking back at Li Congxin and Li Tianqing, his eyes were full of anger and murderous intent. These people turned out to be the sons and daughters of the emperor of Tianqing continent. No wonder Zhu Lianqing didn't give him face just now. This Phoenix Tower turned out to be opened by another daughter of the emperor of Tianqing continent, Li Yusen, the second daughter of the great emperor Heba. My heart trembled again. It is rumored that Li Yusen is a business genius, and can even be called a terrifying money-making machine, but no one expected that her business would reach the Piaomiao island outside the star field. Terrible. Feeling murderous intent behind him, Li Congxin looked back. Calmly, he asked, "We are strangers. This is the first time we meet. Why does that person look like an enemy meeting and is particularly jealous of us?" Zhu Lianqing sneered, "That is the prince of the undefeated continent." Chapter 85, The Alchemy Festival begins. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Oh. That's not surprising. Hearing this, Li Tianqing suddenly understood. She was also calm. Right now, my father is fighting in his world, destroying their undefeated continent and leaving mountains and rivers broken and devastated. How can he not hate us? It's not like you don't know that our father is known as the human massacre and the bandit tyrant. Wherever he goes, not only does he wipe out all living things, he also leaves no needle or thread behind. The only thing is not to dig out all the other people's land, and then move it back to my hometown, Tianqing Holy Land. No wonder. Li Congxin said calmly, "That's true, I would hate it if it were me." While talking and laughing, a few people went upstairs, and the background disappeared from the eyes of others. Listening to the blatant conversation between the siblings, the king was so angry that his mouth was a little crooked. That he waved his sleeves angrily and left the Phoenix Tower first. On the street, a cold voice said, "I heard that boy Li Cong is a loser. He came to participate in the alchemy festival this time. He must be looking for some miraculous medicine to develop his innate physique. Humph, then tomorrow, if he likes anything, I will snatch it to make his dream come true, and continue to go back to his hometown in the Holy Land to be his trash." Because he was unhappy, he deliberately changed Li Congxin's name. One of the old men beside him was very cautious, "But that kid's second sister." Another old man was also a little worried, "It's really rich." The king's eyelids also twitched. "We are all sons of the world. Will my financial resources be worse than his?" His heart skipped a beat, and he gritted his teeth and said, "Mr. Yang, please send a message back immediately and ask my father to prepare another 10 billion top-quality spiritual stones and send someone to deliver them." "No, I'm going to go all out this time, it's 20 billion. The second day, Li Congxin and the other three walked out of the Phoenix Tower. Today's Piaomiao Island is more lively than yesterday. Cultivators from 10 major worlds gather together, causing this extraterrestrial city in the sky to be crowded, just like the world. What's the situation? Li Congxin looked surprised. Overnight, he felt that the whole world had changed. It has become abnormal. In the crowded streets, there was no real face to be seen. The cultivators from all over the world all wore masks of various kinds. What dangled before his eyes were tiger faces, dog faces, monkey faces, or a flower, a fan, or even a weird one. The mask looks like a piece of shit. "Sister, are you sure today is an alchemy event? Are you sure it's not a grand starry sky masked party?" Li Congxin felt a little confused. "You still don't go out much, you don't know how dangerous the world is." Li Tianqing blinked and smiled charmingly. "This is called careful sailing." "Oh." Li Congxin understood immediately and couldn't help but sigh. The gap between personal power systems is too big, which makes survival in a world without the rule of law really difficult. As the saying goes, wealth should not be exposed. In this world where there is no king or a strong fist, who is the boss? Who doesn't worry about being followed when buying elixirs? After buying elixirs at the alchemy festival, he was spotted as soon as he left Miao Miao Island. Robbery. "I was so happy that I couldn't return home and died in the starry sea outside the territory. There are people from the 10 worlds here, but they all wear masks and are mixed together, so no one knows who they are." Focus on safety. In fact, for Li Congxin, the mask is useless at all. He has the eye of truth and can see through everyone. Should we wear a mask too? Wouldn't it be a pity to let a mask obscure your beauty? No need. Li Congxin was at ease. He doesn't bully people casually, but if anyone dares to rob him, a great emperor, it will only be because of his bad luck. He guarantees that he will rob the other person without any underwear left. Huh. Don't we wear them? On the side, Mo Xiangran, who had already put on a very silly-looking long horse face mask with 2 rows of big teeth, took off the mask again. He looked cute and his pretty face was slightly red. 10 venues have been set up on Piaomiao Island. The 3 came to the largest of them all. It was like walking into a large shopping mall. In addition to the large number of buyers wearing masks, there were also some men and women wearing uniforms and flowing white clothes, responsible for sales and cashiers. These were all people from Piaomiao Island. Looking at the dazzling array of elixirs on the rows of counters, Li Congxin couldn't help but be shocked. He could produce such a large number of elixirs. He was not in the top 10 worlds and did not participate in the disputes between the worlds. However, according to the rules set by each world, and they all abide by it. What kind of strength does this Piaomiao Island have? It must be very powerful. Second sister Li Yusin must know. As long as something is clearly marked with a price, it is not a rare and precious spiritual treasure. Really rare and high-grade elixirs are all found in boutique venues. The elixir in the boutique venue does not have a specific price, but is auctioned, and whoever bids the highest gets it. Li Congxin and the others walked straight through the conference venue and arrived at the door of the internal boutique venue. Please purchase a ticket. A dignified and elegant etiquette girl wrapped in a classical cheongsam with a graceful body stood outside the door. Her voice was polite and complimentary. The 3 of them dared to come to the alchemy event without wearing masks. There is no doubt that they must be people of great background. Or Tianqing, but obviously, looking at their faces, it is clear that these 3 people cannot be the latter. Not everyone can enter the boutique venue, and the threshold is very high. The entrance ticket alone costs 100 top-grade spirit stones. Just this ticket price has blocked 99% of the people on Piaomiao Island from entering. 100 top-grade spirit stones are equivalent to all the assets of a second-rate cultivation sect. What tickets do you want? You blind thing, don't you want a job? A curse sounded, and a middle-aged man with extraordinary demeanor came over and hurriedly bowed. I am Wang Jianyun, the eldest lady, the young master, please come in. Li Congxin. Li Tianqing. They looked at each other, they shrugged together, showing a helpless expression. Obviously, this boutique venue belongs to his second sister. In other words, those who sell elixirs here are all renting Li Yusin's venue. In addition to making money from the venue, Li Yusin may also get a commission from those people selling elixirs. Li Congxin was sweating. The strength of the second sister once again opened his eyes. When the 3 entered the venue, 3 more people who dared not wear masks came not far behind. They were the king of the undefeated continent and the 2 quasi-emperor strongmen beside him. The tickets for the 3 people behind should be sold at a higher price. Li Tianqing said lightly, and took Li Congxin into the venue. She is not a person with a beautiful heart, but only a beautiful face. Understood. Wang Jianyun immediately understood that those people were the enemies of the emperor's son and daughter. 3 people. When he came to the door of the boutique venue, the king also threw 300 top-grade spirit stones directly on the counter in front of the etiquette girl. Because he had already inquired about it, the ticket was 100 top-grade spirit stones per person. Of course, the etiquette girl would not give him a ticket because he had just made a mistake. Instead, she stood upright with a straight face, without a trace of smile, as if she had not seen him. You're wrong. Wang Jianyun said calmly. The admission ticket is 10,000 top-grade spirit stones each. The etiquette girl trembled with fear. She stood up straight again. My God, the eldest lady said to sell it at a higher price, but it's 100 times more expensive. What? The king couldn't help but screamed out loud. He was full of doubt. Why? Others are 100. Why is it 10,000 for him? Is it obvious that they want to rip him off? Yes, it's obvious that they want to rip him off. You can choose not to buy it. Wang Jianyun smiled, but without an admission ticket, you can't enter the boutique venue. The venue belongs to her master Li Yusin, so naturally they have the final say on the admission ticket price. So what if they treat you differently? So what if they are unreasonable? If you don't accept it, please leave, and we won't force you to buy it. The corners of the king's mouth twitched slightly, the face gradually became angry, a pair of sword-like eyebrows stood up like an inverted sword. Damn, is it because the unbeaten continent has been defeated by the Tianqing continent recently that he thinks his family is no longer good, so no one dares to ignore him, the emperor's son? The restaurant owner, the club owner, who dares to confront him in front of him, or even cheat him? Li Congxin and the others entered the venue first, they must have tripped him up. Emperor's son, I think they are worried that you will compete with them in the auction, so they want to shut you out directly, without you, a strong opponent. It seems that they are afraid of your strength. Small impatience will ruin big plans. Emperor's son, be patient first. Yes, let's talk about it after entering the venue. The two old men whispered to the side, also with a look of forbearance on their faces. Okay. That the king also took a few deep breaths of bad air. The old man is still the best, the analysis of the two old guys makes sense. This emperor's son will slap you in the face with his strength later. With a wave of his sleeves, he threw out 30,000 top-grade spirit stones. Chapter 86, Why are there such big differences among the same children of the world? You are listening at novelfull.audio. The son of the unbeaten continent, and the two seniors, welcome to participate in this auction. Wang Jianyun, the person in charge of the boutique venue, deliberately shouted loudly. Wow! Not suddenly, a sound of surprise rang out in the venue. Countless eyes looked at the entrance of the venue together. A son of the emperor came to this auction. This is not a good thing. Who can compete with this son of the world who has the financial resources of a world? Humph! After a cold snort, the king also entered the venue with his head held high. Sure enough, money can turn a person's cold butt into a hot face. After buying the admission ticket with tens of thousands of top-grade spirit stones, this person immediately became enthusiastic. The auction is about to begin, and the venue is already full of people. In the top-grade venue, there are many people who do not wear masks, because there are many big guys here. It has to be said that Li Yusin really knows how to do business. After buying the admission ticket and entering the venue, the stepped seats in the venue are also divided into different levels. You have to pay to buy a seat, and the prices vary according to the grade. Ordinary seats are free. Elegant seats, 188 top-grade spirit stones. Guest seats, 888 top-grade spirit stones. VIP rooms, 1888 top-grade spirit stones. Supreme rooms, 8,888 top-grade spirit stones. This expensive price is enough to stop 99% of the people in the world, but most of the people who can come to this boutique venue are of extraordinary status, so even if they don't hesitate to spend a lot of money, they will buy a seat that matches them. Can't lose face. The guest seats are the front row in the hall of the venue, which is already full at this time. The elegant seats are the second and third rows, which are also full. The other seats in the hall, the ordinary seats are also full. There is also a second floor, which surrounds the hall and is separated into high-end and elegant private rooms. I want that one. The king also pointed directly to a golden luxury private room on the second floor opposite the auction table. Now everyone knows that he is the emperor's son, so of course he has to sit in the highest end position. Wang Jianyun, that is the supreme private room. There is only one in the entire auction hall, but it is already occupied. The king also frowned. He raised his eyebrows again and said, What level? You are not qualified to sit there. Who is it? That if it is not as noble as him, then I'm sorry, I can only ask that person to move. Wang Jianyun said, It is the emperor's son and daughter of Tianqing continent. The king also. He felt unhappy. Damn, those two siblings who have a national hatred and family feud with me are deliberately suppressing me, right? In this case, he could only settle for the next best thing, then choose a VIP room for me. Wang Jianyun smiled. VIP room, 188,000. What? That the king couldn't help but yelled. His eyes were wide open like copper bells. Isn't it 1888? Why is it 188,000 for him? Kill him, obviously deliberately. For a moment, his heart was raging with anger, his fists were clenched. and he had the urge to tear down this black seat venue that looked at people and served them, but he still resisted, because there is a rule that whoever makes a move on Piaomiao Island will immediately be disqualified from participating in the Dandao festival, and he always remembers the purpose of this trip, which is to buy powerful elixirs. If the emperor thinks it is expensive, we never force guests to sit where. But Wang Jianyun didn't seem to have any intention of killing him. The king also laughed angrily. Provoke him? Provoke him? Do you really think he is stupid and rich? Let others find the right opportunity to bleed you at will. I just don't follow your routine, and immediately waved my hand. Okay, I don't want it. The emperor's son is wise. The two old men praised him behind him. At the critical moment, he did not act on impulse, but was flexible. Their emperor's son is a man who can accomplish great things, the king also said angrily. Just give me a guest seat. Wang Jianyun smiled. It's full. Then the elegant seat. It's full. The king also suppressed his anger. Okay, I'll find an ordinary seat myself. Wang Jianyun always smiled. The emperor's son doesn't need to find it, it's full. The king also. He was convinced. It seems that this guy has decided to kill himself. After going around in circles, he finally had to grit his teeth and say, okay, I want a VIP room for 188,000 yuan. At this time, a waitress came over, bowed, and apologized. Sorry, this is the last room, someone just asked for it. The king was also confused on the spot, a little at a loss. The other party's routine was not what he thought. There were no seats left, so where would he be placed? Wang Jianyun also looked apologetic. Ahem, there are really no seats. We also have emergency measures, but we can only ask the prince to make do with it. Go get a few benches for the prince, don't take up seats, a smaller one. Yes, sir. Soon, the maid brought 3 small wooden benches that could only fit the lower half of the buttocks, and held back her laughter and stuffed them into the king's hands. Ha ha ha, the prince, just find an aisle to sit. Remember not to block the road. After smiling and admonishing, Wang Jianyun ignored him and went to serve his master. Who wants to kill you? Do you really think we have never seen money? Who wants to kill you? The king. No way, the son of the world has fallen to the point of sitting in the aisle. Has the invincible continent, which claims to be undefeated in all battles, really fallen to this point? I heard that it was beaten badly by the Tianqing continent. But it's not that bad. The king also carried a small stool and stood in the eyes of the crowd, listening to the whispers around him. His face was dark, and his lips twitched slightly. Deliberate, this was definitely a deliberate prank on himself. Now he also understood. No wonder Wang Jianyun howled so loudly about his origins before. It turned out that he was paving the way for himself to embarrass himself. Looking at the supreme private room in astonishment, his face twitched violently. Entering the restaurant, Li Congxin lived in room number 1 of Tianzi, and he was kicked out. Entering the club, the boy sat in the supreme private room, and he sat in the aisle with a stool. Fuck. Both are the sons of the emperor, both are the sons of the world, how can he swallow this bad breath? Isn't this the same as rubbing your face on the ground? Crack. In anger, he crushed one of the legs of the small wooden stool in his hand. Emperor, calm down. Calm down. At this moment, Yang Lao and Lu Lao, who were also holding small stools, 2 quasi-emperors who were always respected and admired, also had expressions of bearing humiliation on their faces. Emperor, remember the purpose of our trip. Why care about the process? The final result is the truth. Yes. So what if you sit in the aisle? When you show your strength, you will still be able to shock everyone, and no one will dare to underestimate you. Humph, sometimes, pretending to be a pig to eat a tiger is often more impressive and memorable than being high-profile directly. If you have the capital to attract everyone's attention, even if you are in the darkest place, you will eventually be the brightest star. That it must be said that the 2 elders' level of chicken soup is unique. Got it. Under the comfort of the 2 elders, the king's mentality gradually stabilized. He couldn't help but admire that the old ones are still the best, and that Yang and Lu are steady. Looking at the Supreme Room again, he glanced at the storage ring on his finger, and his face was more and more excited. In addition to the 20 billion top-grade spirit stones sent by the rear this morning, he brought a total of 30 billion today. Li Congxin, Li Tianqing, you two brothers and sisters wait, and we will see the true strength in a while. The one who laughs last is the winner. Immediately, he strode to the aisle, put the small wooden stool on the steps, and sat down carelessly. As a result, he forgot that he had just crushed a bench leg, didn't sit firmly, and fell, his face almost smeared on a guest's foot. At this moment, the Supreme Room. Emperor's son, this is the best chrysanthemum tea from our Tianqing continent, also known as duodwokai. The fragrance of each tea leaf is like a daisy that has just bloomed. Emperor's son, this is the most famous pastry in Tianyu continent. Emperor's son, this is the crystal ice grapes that were just airlifted from Cambrian continent this morning on the time-space bridge. Behind the waterfall-like door curtain, Li Congxin and the other two sat on the soft guest seats, with 6 elegant cheongsams wrapped around their graceful bodies, serving them 2 to 1. Li Congxin squinted his eyes and leaned back in the chair, without responding, as if he was conserving his energy before the battle. Bang! 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 Because it was just the mind controlling the soul, it had no effect on him who had always been lazy. In the system miracle, he was constantly kicking the money tree, kicking harder and harder, kicking 17 or 18 times in a row. Hint, you get 13.2 billion best spirit stones. Hint, you get 14.3 billion top-grade spirit stones. Hint, you get 15.9 billion top-grade spirit stones. Clang! Clang! He is making preparations, in order to give his father a strong capital to penetrate the universe, and to make everyone in Taiqian Holy Land soar to the sky. He has to do a big job. At this time, a woman with a curvy body wrapped in a classical cheongsam walked up to the auction platform, but this girl was more beautiful than the other waitresses. She is the auctioneer this time, because this venue belongs to Li Yusen. The service staff in the venue are naturally all her people, even. The auctioneer is Li Yusen's people. However, the items to be auctioned next have nothing to do with her. She is just responsible for helping with the auction. Of course, because it is her venue, she will also take a commission after the treasure auction is completed. Bang bang bang. The beautiful auctioneer knocked the table lightly 3 times with a jade hammer, indicate the start of the auction. The venue suddenly became quiet, but it was only quiet for a moment. With the exhibition of the first auction item, the whole venue was immediately in an uproar. Oh my God, is the first auction item so exciting? If I get this item, my potential in the future will be greatly improved. If I have the chance, I am willing to exchange my life for this item. That everyone was excited. The first item of this precious elixir auction is the Butian Dan. Chapter 87, Opening with a Small Goal. Who can resist this? You are listening at novelfull.audio. The way of heaven is to reduce the excess and make up for the deficiency. Butian Dan. It can refine the innate spiritual roots, make up for the impurity of the spiritual roots, and increase the level of the spiritual roots by 1 level. It looks very ordinary, but the actual significance is very significant. For those cultivators with yellow and black spiritual roots, this thing is too luxurious. They don't deserve it. Using it is a waste of heaven's gifts. But for cultivators with earth and heaven spiritual roots, this thing is a rare treasure, especially for cultivators with heaven spiritual roots. If a cultivator with heaven spiritual roots has a Butian Dan, he can upgrade his spiritual roots to the best spiritual roots. It is equivalent to stepping into the posture of a super genius. In a big world, cultivators with the best spiritual roots are rare, isn't it, for cultivators to be powerful at all costs? Therefore, cultivators with earth and heaven spiritual roots dream of Butian Dan day and night, and they are absolutely willing to exchange everything for it. Butian Dan, starting price, 1 million top-grade spirit stones. As the auctioneer's beautiful voice sounded, the people in the venue were shocked. This price shocked at least 99% of the people in the venue. Everyone wants it, but not many people have the strength to afford it. But this venue, after all, gathers the elites of the top 10 worlds. I offer 1.1 million top-grade spirit stones. 1.2 million. 1.3 million, Some powerful people immediately started bidding. 2 million. A loud voice came from the VIP room on the second floor, and it was accompanied by a powerful imperial power, which temporarily stunned the whole audience. Wow, what a big deal. Rich, really rich. The people in the VIP box are all big names, at least they are the lords of a holy land in the big world, or the royal supreme. They must be rich. Listening to the discussion in the venue, in the VIP box, a lord of a holy land took a sip of the top-grade chrysanthemum tea leisurely, and a smile like a chrysanthemum gradually blooming appeared on his face. Is there anyone else bidding? The auctioneer's sweet voice was full of temptation. Someone was unwilling. I bid 2.01 million. At this time, in the supreme box, a lazy voice sounded, a small goal. Stinky brother, what are you shouting? Li Tianqing stared with her beautiful eyes and gently pinched Li Congxin's thigh. Teacher, what small goal? Mo Xiangran looked at a loss. Everyone in the audience was also stunned. They all looked at the supreme box. Is this making trouble? However, the beautiful auctioneer was not angry, but smiled coquettishly, because she knew that the person in the supreme box was her own son, but in order to avoid suspicion, she would definitely not say it in public, so she smiled and said, Dear guest, may I ask what is a small goal? Li Congxin said leisurely, 100 million. Puff. In the VIP box, the lord of the Holy Land directly spit out a mouthful of tea. Boom. Everyone in the venue was shocked. Good guy, the other party only bid 2.01 million, and you directly made 100 million. Is this crazy? Unfortunately, the supreme box was blocked by a water curtain, and it was impossible to see who was inside. However, from the sound, it was a young man. Being able to sit in the only supreme box, it is certain that he is definitely a son of a world with a high status. At this time, the kings who seemed to be selling melon seeds and fruits sitting in the aisle, also 3 old and young, were also excited. The king was also excited and said, Li Congxin is so impatient. Old Yang showed an interesting look. Li Congxin is a useless person in cultivation. This Butian Dan is naturally a coveted thing for him, so he is so impulsive. Old Lu also laughed. Yes, it is worth 100 million to upgrade the lower-level Huang-grade spiritual roots to the lower-level Shen-grade for a son of the world. After listening to the 2 elders' analysis, then it's my turn to take action. The king, who vowed to compete with Li Congxin, also sneered, and immediately stood up from the aisle and said loudly, I will offer 110 million top-grade spiritual stones. Someone added 10 million. Everyone looked at the king. The emperor's son from the undefeated continent has also taken action. How arrogant. As expected of the son of the world, even if he is sitting in the aisle, he cannot be ignored, and his strength is extraordinary. Listening to those voices, the king couldn't help but show pride. What Elder Li and Elder Lu said was indeed true. If you have capital that attracts everyone's attention, even if you are in the darkest place, you will eventually become the brightest star. In the supreme box, Li Congxin's lazy voice came out, 1 billion. The proud king was also stunned. Shouldn't you be 120 million? Suddenly, the corner of his mouth twitched again. Fog. Is this kid sick? The auction has just started. Why are you like this? Even if it's to warm up the scene, you can't be like this. It's like you haven't taken off your pants yet. You make people laugh. The emperor's son adds a little bit of 100 million, and he goes straight to 1 billion. The beard on Elder Lu's lips trembled. It seems that the Butian Dan is really important to him. The more so, the more he can't get it. The king's face also became fierce. With a wave of his sleeves, for a moment, he couldn't help but be full of pride, and he really had the demeanor of a king. I will offer 1.1 billion top-grade spirit stones. As soon as he finished speaking, Li Congxin's voice came from the second floor, 10 billion. Puff. The king almost fell down on the steps. Boom. There was an uproar in the venue. No matter how much someone else bids, they always add 0 after the integer without saying anything. This is the first time I have met such a cruel person. 10 billion top-grade spiritual stones, my God. How rich is the young master in the supreme box? He is so powerful and soaring. I just want to ask his family is the manufacturer of spiritual stones. This auction has just begun and has it reached its climax? Then the more precious Danbao that will be shot next, how exciting will the scene be? I don't dare to think about it. In the commotion, everyone looked at the king expectantly. I would like to see if this son of the world dares to follow up. The king's expression also became serious, and he was also thinking, should he get 10.1 billion? I'm afraid this kid is not a crazy person. He whispered to himself, and immediately showed a cautious and suspicious look. Self-analysis. This kid Li Congxin, is he trying to trick me again? Want to punish me? He even suffered several losses and had sequelae. He thought to himself, if he shouted 10.1 billion, Li Congxin immediately laughed proudly and quit the competition, then wouldn't he have suffered a huge loss? The heaven-building pill is indeed precious, but it is definitely not worth the price. Don't be impulsive, absolutely don't be impulsive. After a fierce analysis, in full view of everyone, he finally chose to let go first. Forgot, his little bench only has 3 legs. Brother, your second sister gave you 10 billion, and you were able to make it in one go. In the box, Li Tianqing also had a look of shock on his beautiful face. As expected, his younger brother has been accustomed to spending a lot of money since he was a child. Or maybe he, who has always wanted what he wants, has no idea about the amount of spiritual stones. It doesn't matter. These tens of billions are my personal savings. You can take the flowers first. But he immediately took out another storage ring, and at the same time, he bit his jade teeth and said, I will immediately send someone to summon the second sister and ask her to send money. Wang Jianyun. Spiritual stones are not a problem, as long as my brother is happy squandering them. As you command. Wang Jianyun, who was waiting on one side, prepared to give the news without saying a word. No, I still have it. Li Congxin stopped Wang Jianyun and did not ask for Li Tianqing's private money, but he couldn't say that he only needed a few kicks to get the money, and he couldn't spend it all, so he smiled and said, hey, actually the second sister gave me a lot before. That's it. Li Tianqing suddenly realized it and couldn't help but ask, a lot? A lot? Li Congxin smiled mysteriously, in short, there are many, many. That stinky girl is so partial. Li Tianqing scolded. She was a little jealous of her brother. This heaven-building pill is indeed useful for Li Congxin, but of course it's not him. His 8 spiritual roots are all of the highest quality, so why would he need the heaven-building pill? Li Congxin first obtained this mother pill, and then used the system's gift rebates to increase the quantity. He wanted to improve the spiritual roots of everyone in Tianqing Holy Land. From now on, all the disciples of Tianqing Holy Land will have the best spiritual roots. He is bound to get the heaven-building pill. In the end, the Tianbu Dan was sold for 10 billion top-quality spiritual stones. Because the auction was still going on, the transaction was not carried out immediately. The contract was signed and the treasure was first remembered in Li Cong's mind. At this time, the second lot was presented again. Seeing the elixir emitting terrifying evil energy placed in a jade box on the auction stage, everyone's eyes lit up again. Some even took a deep breath, especially in the VIP box on the second floor. Several quasi-emperor experts, as well as some peak Martial Saint realm experts who were about to enter the quasi-emperor realm, had excited glares in their eyes. Some couldn't sit still. Everyone was secretly shouting, what is the origin of this Piaomiao island? It can actually obtain such a magical elixir. Erden. This elixir is not a magic elixir for growth or development, rather, it is a magical elixir with specific special effects. After using the Eden, the cultivator can obtain forgiveness from heaven. After breaking through the realm, he can successfully avoid a disaster strike. You know, under the catastrophe, there is a narrow escape from death. A high-level heavenly catastrophe means a lifetime of death. For example, among 1 million cultivators at the peak of the Martial Saint level, only 999,000 would fall in the catastrophe of the quasi-emperor realm. This is also the reason why cultivators have a long lifespan and continue to multiply, but the world has never been overcrowded. The heavenly tribulation in the quasi-emperor realm is already so difficult, let alone the quasi-emperor realm stepping into the great emperor realm. The reason is that it takes 1,000,000 years for the great emperor to appear in this world. But as long as they obtain this elixir, a powerful quasi-emperor might have a chance to compete with the great emperors of the world. After explaining the function of the spiritual elixir first, the beautiful auctioneer then said, Doer elixir, the starting price is 1 million top-quality spiritual stones. Chapter 88. If you want to destroy it, you must first make it crazy. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The starting price of the Doer Dan is the same as that of the Tian mending pill, but the popularity of this spiritual treasure is higher than that of the Tian mending pill. Thinking of the last auction item that sold for 10 billion, everyone looked at the supreme box with a worried and cautious look, as if they had a tacit understanding. He wouldn't want to snatch this thing too, right? However, it seems, there is no movement. He couldn't help but look suspicious. After having a climax, you choose to be quiet? Many young and energetic people are prone to fooling around and often do stupid things that will lead to defeat once they are forced to do so. Did that young man also run out of money after spending a lot of money? Or, are you not interested in this thing? After thinking about it for a while, everyone couldn't help but feel relieved. Suddenly. 2 million. 3 million. 4 million. In the hall of the venue, the sound of competing bids began to ring out. Then, the fight began in the various VIP rooms on the second floor. I will offer you 10 million. This sect leader bids 18 million. Can you please show me some respect? I am at the Xingyao continent practice mountain because the Holy Emperor, Ji Kuan, is willing to purchase this Dane Dan for 25 million top-quality spiritual stones. As expected, he is sitting on the second floor, and his background is obviously deeper. Ha ha ha, who doesn't dream of crossing Eden? Just because the Holy Emperor, I can't afford it. 30 million. 35 million. Prices keep rising. Young master, the pastry sticks to your teeth. This is for you to rinse your mouth with. In the supreme box, Li Congxin, who had just finished eating a piece of pastry, took another sip of the unknown milk handed over by the maid and rinsed his mouth. Then he vomited into the jade basin held by another maid. Then, he said calmly, a small goal. That leisurely voice, which seemed to be uncontested by the world, made the whole place upstairs and downstairs instantly quiet. Everyone twitched their mouths. Here it comes again. Although he is late, he will obviously not be absent. It's him again. For a moment, everyone couldn't help but look desperate. Obviously, that young man is not just a half-assed person who can only pretend to be a master, but also has a small goal when he opens his mouth. Even if he can fight against him a few times, who has the courage to compete with him? Do you want to fight for this too? Li Congxin, are you sick? At this time, the king who was preparing to suppress the entire audience also looked at the supreme box with great displeasure. What is a waste of cultivation doing to cross Eden? Humph, I don't know if you have ever experienced the three basic realms of solid state, pulse expansion, and soul shaping. Do you use Eden, a thing that you will never use in this life, as a decoration? But he really needed to save Eden, so he said loudly, 200 million top-quality spiritual stones. This time, the king also doubled his power, and he had to show off his majesty as a son of the world. 10000000000. Li Congxin was straightforward. The king also stood up from the aisle with a bang. 2 billion. 10 billion. Li Congxin's voice was still calm and gentle. You. The king also trembled all over. If you do this again, you are targeting me on purpose, right? Clenching his fists, he stared angrily at the supreme box. His eyes were about to burst, and he gritted his teeth hard. He sat down again dejectedly. Okay. You're awesome. Originally, he wanted to take a gamble, but he still managed to stay calm. The doer Dan could make people crazy, but like the Butian Dan, it would not make him, the emperor's son, crazy enough to lose his mind. 10 billion is too much. Suddenly, another sinister and cunning light appeared in the king's eyes. If you want to destroy it, you must first make it crazy. Originally, he planned to be tough and compete with Li Congxin, but now he has changed his mind. People cannot be stupid or impulsive. Since the opponent is very strong, a head-on fight will only end in a lose-lose situation. He didn't believe that Li Congxin had endless spiritual stones. People need to have some brains. This auction has just begun, and there are still many rare spiritual treasures to come. Hey hey hey, when you run out of money, you finish singing and I will come on stage. In the first half of this great drama, Li Congxin suppressed the entire audience. In the second half, my son came back to kill everyone. Both are sons of the emperor, and each of them leads half of the show. The emperor is wise. The emperor's son is indeed a man of great ability. Mr. Yang and Mr. Lu also guessed what Wang Zhiye was thinking, and they both gave thumbs up and praised him without hesitation. There was silence in the venue. The beautiful auctioneer looked at the audience with a sweet smile, and after a moment, the jade hammer fell. The final word, to cross Eden. The final price is 10 billion high-quality spiritual stones, which will be obtained by the young master in the supreme box. As her voice fell, the cultivators in the venue who wanted to get this thing felt lonely, dim. You are already an emperor, why do you want to cross Eden? In the box, Li Tianqing looked at Li Congxin with confusion in his beautiful eyes. You haven't become the emperor yet? Li Congxin said. Smelly brother, are you naive or? Silly Z was really reluctant to say it, and said angrily, do you think it's you? The Supreme Emperor, who only appears once in a million years, can be promoted so easily. However, I heard that Li Congxin had prepared this Eden for herself. Her eyebrows were pretty and she couldn't help but smile. She has a beautiful smile, and the pair of pear dimples naturally exposed on her face are as sweet as ripe candied fruits. In front of Li Congxin, she no longer looked like a cold and beautiful queen. That's hard to say. Li Congxin smiled with a bit of mystery. As long as the number of these dewy pills is increased, when the time comes, not only Li Tianqin, but also the entire Taiqian Holy Land, will be promoted smoothly. No need to worry about facing the heavenly tribulation. Wonderful. He really came to the right place for the alchemy event on Piamiao Island. At this time, the third pill treasure has been presented on the auction table. In the jade box, there is a spiritual pill the size of a baby's fist, which is transparent and releases a divine light full of Taoism. There was another sensation in the venue, and everyone showed eager expressions on their faces. The third auction item is the Jidao Wuzhen pill. Jidao Wuzhen pill can greatly improve one's own understanding. Within a certain period of time, understanding, this seems to be an illusory thing, but for anyone, it is an extremely important qualification. It's like a poor student who can only rely on filling in the blanks to get points, and will never feel the experience of all kinds of complex equations flying around in the mind of a top student when doing math problems. With the blessing of strong comprehension, many mysteries and truths that could not be touched before can be understood in a single thought. It can break through the shackles that have trapped oneself for thousands or even tens of thousands of years, so that the next path of cultivation will be smooth and integrated. With a short period of strong comprehension, you can also comprehend the exercises that were previously impossible to practice, and even create a heavenly or even holy grade exercises. If a cultivator can create a holy grade exercise, he will be a master-level figure. Just relying on this exercise alone will benefit him for life, the beautiful auctioneer said, borrowing Dao Wuzhen Dan. The starting price is 1 million top-grade spirit stones. The starting price is still 1 million, but no one bid. Instead, they all looked towards the supreme box with worry. Everyone was filled with anxiety and uneasiness, fearing that a sound might come from that box. Unexpectedly, the king sitting in the aisle also raised his hand and said first, a small goal. Chapter 89, I will criticize you like crazy, no one can argue with me. You are listening at novelfull.audio. After calling out the price, the king also looked provocatively at the supreme box. He already had the perfect idea in his mind of each taking the lead in half of the show, so he was deliberately provoking Li Congxin. The beautiful auctioneer glanced at him. I spat in my heart, squatting in the aisle like a beggar. What kind of class do you have? You deserve to imitate my young master's speech. The invincible emperor of the mainland bids 100 million high-grade spiritual stones. Is there anyone else who offers a higher price? Immediately, with a charming smile on his face, he looked directly at the supreme box on the second floor. As expected, Li Congxin was really fooled, and a gentle voice came from the supreme box, 10 billion, not everyone. This time, he didn't even bother to ask for 10 times the price, so he jumped directly to 10 billion, obviously. The king also offended him. Strength. This is a powerful person who does not allow anyone to collide. The king was also very happy. He fell into the trap, he fell into the trap. Li Congxin is really impulsive. Your Excellency is arrogant. Thinking that the plan had succeeded, he loudly said, "It's yours." The elixir of enlightenment was bought by Li Congxin for 10 billion top-quality spiritual stones. Next. The fourth lot in this auction, Hui Yang Jinshui. Returning Yang true water is made from pure Yang essence fire and pure Yin cold marrow as the main raw materials. Just one drop can instantly restore all mana. 10 billion, that the beautiful auctioneer had just finished her introduction, and before even saying the starting price, Li Congxin's voice came from the supreme box. He was too lazy to argue with anyone anymore. Everyone in the venue was shocked. You also have 10 billion for this thing? Brother, do you have too much money to spend? You really have too much money, you can help me. Lot 5, Exploding Candy. Put the explosive candy into your mouth. You don't need to chew it. Your taste buds will explode in your mouth. It can increase your combat power by more than 10 times in a short period of time. 10 billion. The sixth lot, the Heavenly King's Life-Saving Pill. The Heavenly King's Life-Saving Pill is a holy healing product that has extremely miraculous effects. As long as the cultivator is not dead, no matter how injured he is, even if there is only a faint residual soul left, he can immediately return to full health with this elixir, and everything will be restored as before. 10 billion. Just after the introduction of the beautiful auctioneer, Li Congxin's voice started up again. Next, Li Congxin didn't even listen to the introduction. As soon as the beautiful auctioneer said the name of the elixir, his quotation sounded. The seventh lot, Dust Falling Pill. 10 billion. The eighth lot, Yin Yang Longevity Pill. 10 billion. The ninth lot, Xingxing Good Fortune Pill. 10 billion. In the venue, except for Li Congxin's relaxed voice, everyone else had their mouths wide open, a dull look on his face, an expression like, "I'm fucking shocked." Crazy criticism. This guy is definitely a crazy person. At this moment, the king's lips were twitching slightly, and his expression was horrifying. The king who was so proud just now is no longer happy anymore. He suddenly realized a profound truth. In the face of real strength, all plans and calculations are just clowns and grandstanding. He is overthinking everything. Either you sing and I come on stage, or everyone takes the lead for half of the show. Li Congxin obviously has endless spiritual stones, and obviously wants to sing the whole show solo. He wants to kill everyone by himself. Brother, how many spiritual stones did your second sister give you? Teacher, don't you feel bad? In the box, Li Tianqing and Mo Xiangran, who were sitting next to Li Congxin, also looked shocked. Although the money spent was not theirs, they all felt heartbroken when they heard it. 10 billion per mouthful is simply crazy. Who can afford such a defeat? What's heartbreaking? Isn't it just a matter of 3 or 2 feet? Li Congxin looked calm. After bidding, he picked up the tea, took a long sip, and cleared his throat. The 10th spiritual treasure in this auction. On the auction stage, the beautiful auctioneer said this, and then looked at the supreme box on the second floor directly opposite, ready to wait for Li Congxin to directly say 10 billion. Unexpectedly, Li Congxin was drinking tea. Does the young master have no money? Can't kill anymore, that she couldn't help but secretly guess, so she cleared her throat and continued, the 10th lot, Shuogan Pill. Suddenly, his face turned slightly red. Shuogan Pill is a strange elixir only for male cultivators. A man can only use one pill in his life. Eating more has no effect. When he introduced its specific function, his cheeks turned red and his voice was a little shy. After using this pill, you can grow 1 inch. Hearing this, many male cultivators were shocked. 1 inch is 3.3 centimeters, that's quite a lot. Although it's only an inch, in reality, it's the difference between an absolutely macho man and a mediocre man. The auctioneer was about to start talking about the bidding price. 10 billion. Li Congxin's voice sounded again as he put down his teacup. Beautiful auctioneer. Everyone. The king also said. You want to buy this too? In the box, Li Tianqing's face flushed, as if she was trying to hold back her smile. She blinked her beautiful eyes and looked at Li Congxin with a suspicious expression. Mo Xianran's cheeks were even more red. She quickly pretended to know nothing and looked down at her toes to hide her shyness. Ah! What did I just bid? The expressions of the two made Li Congxin look confused, because he didn't listen carefully to the auctioneer's introduction just now. 10 billion. 10 billion. Then, Li Congxin, who seemed to be buying goods, swept 5 or 6 treasures in a row. His arrogant attitude sweeping the whole venue can only be described as invincible, completely invincible. At this moment, the king sitting on the small bench in the aisle, even though he was also a son of the world, was shocked in his heart like a stormy wave, rolling endlessly. God, how deep is this kid's background? Does he have an endless vein of top-grade spiritual stones in his stomach? How rich is he? Envy, jealousy, and hatred, even, can't help but let out an indignant roar. Why didn't this prodigal son get beaten to death by his father? Gnashing teeth, why? 10 billion. Li Congxin seemed to be responding to his anger. The king also trembled all over. Click. One didn't sit firmly and fell off the stool. On the auction table, the beautiful auctioneer also had a feeling of unprecedented exhilaration. This kind of smooth and straightforward auction without any ink was the first time she had ever encountered it in her life. The auction process that originally took a day was almost finished by Li Congxin in half an hour. It was just like going through the process. After a light breath, the beautiful voice sounded again. Now, the last spiritual treasure of this auction will be presented, and it is also the most precious one. At this time, a golden, bright orange, and dazzling golden pill was presented on the auction table. Chapter 98 Desperate Fight, 30 billion top-grade spirit stones go down the drain. You are listening at novelfull.audio. A 500,000-year-old rebirth pill. Boom! As her voice rang out, everyone in the venue stood up. No way! Such a thing has appeared. This is a heaven-defying thing. The rebirth pill is said to be a magical pill that was produced by the ancient beasts Nirvana bird and Lihua Shenfeng when they absorbed the power of heaven and earth during Nirvana. This pill can make people enjoy the blessing of heaven. What's even more fascinating is that this pill can also give people a chance to be reborn, which means an extra life. Although they knew that the treasure would not be theirs, everyone still discussed it excitedly. There are only a few Lihua Shenfeng in the 10 worlds that are wider than the entire Milky Way, not to mention that this beast only reborn once every 100,000 years. Every time the Lihua Shenfeng reborns, it will produce a rebirth pill, but the effect of the fire rebirth pill has a great relationship with the age of the fire god Phoenix when it was reborn. If it is a 100,000-year-old fire rebirth pill, there is only a 10% chance of adding a life, and the fire rebirth pill of 500,000 years has a 50% chance of adding an extra life. For cultivators who think life is a gamble and adventure, a 50% chance is already quite high. For them who live in a dangerous world, having an extra life, let alone a 50% chance, even a 10% chance is enough to make them crazy. The beautiful auctioneer looked at the supreme box expectantly, feeling a little puzzled. For such a good thing, this time, her young master did not bid 10 billion, so she smiled. The starting price of the 500,000-year-old fire rebirth pill is 5 million top-grade spirit stones. 10 billion. An extremely excited voice sounded abruptly. The excited voice echoed in the spacious venue. The one who bid was not Li Congxin. It was Wang Jia standing in the aisle. The huge price of 10 billion shouted out by Wang Jia, who had always chosen to be vulgar, surprised everyone. Is it finally going to be hard once? At the end, is the emperor of the undefeated continent finally ready to exert his strength? It seems that he will do everything in this last tremor. For a while, everyone waited and watched. 10 billion, I bid 10 billion. As if the auctioneer didn't hear him, Wang Jia shouted 3 times in a row. He was anxious, because this was the last lot. If he didn't grab it, would this trip really be worth it? Not even a hair, so he had to make a last gamble. The most important thing was that one more life was extremely attractive to him. Li Congxin held the teacup and was about to drink it, and casually replied, 20 billion. Wang Jia's excited expression twitched, and his feet staggered suddenly. because of the extreme tension and anxiety in his heart, his whole body was shaking, his face was a little distorted. It seems that Li Congxin, the son of the Tianqing continent, is determined to get this rebirth pill. 30 billion, that he could only shout desperately, but he knew he had no chance. After shouting the price, he shouted desperately to the Supreme Box, "Why do you keep targeting me? Can you leave a way out?" Li Congxin will definitely increase the price, but all his resources are these 30 billion top-grade spirit stones, he has no strength to compete anymore. Hey, since you want it so much. Li Congxin used the eye of truth to explore the rebirth pill on the opposite stand, and a sly smile appeared on his face, and he said generously, "I'll give it to you." What? The king also screamed. He didn't expect Li Congxin to back down. Immediately, the whole person was relieved, he almost cried, and almost said, "Brother, thank you." But he still held back. Ha ha ha. Instead, he immediately showed the attitude of a winner, holding his head high, looking majestic and laughing triumphantly. Ha ha ha, you are out of money, right? Li Congxin did not argue with him, but drank tea leisurely, waiting for a good show. What an ungrateful guy. Pa! You have lost the bearing and demeanor of a son of the world. At this time, everyone in the venue showed contempt. In their hearts, they admired Li Congxin even more, because they had seen Li Congxin's arrogance, which could be called unparalleled in the world. Everyone naturally thought, how could the young master in the Supreme Box be out of money? It was obviously you who begged him, and he saw that you were about to cry and collapse, so he was kind enough to let you go once. As a result, you actually showed off, Pa. Pa. However, the king who won the bid had no time to pay attention to these things at this time. Instead, he immediately took out the storage ring containing 30 billion top-grade spirit stones, exchanged and delivered them on the spot, and then took the 500,000-year-old fire rebirth pill and swallowed it impatiently on the spot. Then, his tiger body shook, boom. In the space, the temperature suddenly soared, and a flaming phoenix that was about to spread its wings and soar into the sky slowly rose from his body, like a red sun about to rise. Seeing this sign of nirvana, everyone's expression was lifted. The effect of the divine elixir has been produced, and the king is about to be reborn from the ashes, bathing in the blessings of heaven and adding another life. Swish, swish, swish. Bah! At this moment, the flaming phoenix that had just half risen from the king's body began to incinerate and wither in the air, and soon turned into countless fluorescent lights and scattered ashes. The king, whose face was full of excitement, was stunned on the spot. Everyone was dumbfounded. Nirvana failed. 30 billion, nothing. Silence. There was silence. Everyone trembled in their hearts and felt lucky. Fortunately, I didn't grab it. The king also stood stunned on the ground for a long time, his eyes as wide as copper bells. There was an expression of disbelief on his face, as if he was unwilling to believe the results and facts even to death. 30 billion top-quality spiritual stones, this is 30 billion. As a result, all the money was spent, and I really didn't get a single hair. I gave you a chance, but you're out of luck. In the Supreme Box, Li Congxin calmly shook his head and smiled. This had long been expected by him, he had previously identified it with the eye of truth. This 5 million-year-old rebirth elixir was not contaminated by heaven's luck or a sign of good fortune. The user must have a 50% chance of failure. Why? With a slight sigh, Li Congxin calmly took out a spiritual elixir and handed it into the hands of a maid beside him. He asked her to come over and give her some instructions. The maid held the elixir with shock on her face. A pair of almond-shaped eyes were so wide that it looked like the woman was blind. Ding, you give Lilac a rebirth pill, trigger 1,000 times rebate, and get 1,000 rebirth pills. Although it was not given to her, according to the shameless rules of the system, a rebate would be triggered if she passed it. Next, Ding Xiang took a deep breath, then opened the water curtain and walked to the balcony. She raised her white wrist and held a golden elixir in her hand, said, "Everyone, my young master also has a 1 million-year rebirth elixir here, which can 100% receive blessings from heaven and add another life." The voice was clear and sweet. "It's a rare trouble, so there's no need to bid. It's only sold for 29.9 billion. Does anyone want it?" Puff. The king, who was feeling dejected from his stupidity, looked up to the sky and spurted out a mouthful of angry blood. Boom. He fell to the ground on the spot and fainted. Wow, thought there was an uproar in the venue. No wonder the young master in the supreme box doesn't want to compete with the king. It turns out that he disdains it. He has a million-year level rebirth elixir in his hand. 1,000,000 years, 100% one more life. But looking at the elixir held in the hands of the maid, everyone was drooling, a rebirth elixir that can 100% increase one's life. Who wouldn't want it? How could they not want it? But with 29.9 billion top-quality spiritual stones, no one in the audience could afford it except for the undefeated Continental Emperor a quarter of an hour ago.